The green jacket switches by KNCKeys are no joke. They somehow managed to give a keyboard switch main character vibes. I honestly don't know how they did it. The sound profile and feel isn't for everyone, but if you can get behind a clacky, poppy switch, these will definitely be for you. For transparency, I bought these switches myself, and as always, all thoughts and opinions are my own. If you got the early run of these switches directly from KNCKeys, they came in a super nice themed box with a ribbon representing the coffins from the show, but the more recent batches come in a super nice themed bag. I got neither of these since I ordered my switches from all caps, just a plain Ziploc bag full of switches, so if you aren't ordering directly from KNCKeys, I'd say expect the Ziploc bag. These switches are manufactured by Texi and come in at 65 cents a switch, which is pretty standard pricing, and they come with a HPE top housing, nylon bottom housing, and a long pole 13.9mm palm stem. The springs here are 22mm long 2-stage springs with a 55g actuation force and a 63.5 bottom out force. Oh no. Why does this happen to me? Having a 2-stage spring means that the object will be super fast and explosive. Depending on where you buy them from, you can get these switches in either linear or tactile. When I bought them, all caps only had the linears available, so those are what I got. These switches have very little stem wobble. I think filming them is just a complete waste of time, and in my case, meant that I was unable to install the switch without damaging the top housing, so skip the films with these switches. The stems here are factory lube, but it's mostly just on the legs. The rest of the walls are pretty much dry. These are 5-pin with a cutout for RGB if you're into that, and have KNCKeys branding on the top housing. These have a pretty short travel distance at 2mm pre-travel and 3.1mm total travel, so these will have a more abrupt bottom out as opposed to a switch with a standard 4mm travel. I put these switches on my YC66 with Artifact Noir keycaps. This has been my switch testing setup since I started the channel, but I think it's time to retire this setup in favor of a new one, so stay tuned in the future for that. So these switches are very smooth stock. The materials definitely give a smooth typing experience. The stock sound here is also pretty decent. The bottom out sound is a little harsh due to the long pole, and there is some audible scratch that you can hear. There isn't any spring ping here. There's a very slight crunch that you can hear if you hold the switch to your ear, but obviously that's not a valid use case, so it's not a knock on the switch in any way. I would treat this switch as any JWK, where lubing the switches is more for the sound than the feel. One thing I noticed while lubing the switches is that a lot of my stems have some sort of yellow stains inside. I don't think it affects performance in any way, but I thought I might as well point it out since I haven't seen this happen on any other switch. On my batch, I ended up speed lubing these switches, so lube stem and spring only since I wanted to preserve the character of that bottoming out sound. Speed lubing also results in a more slightly higher pitch sound as opposed to when you lube the bottom housing, which I personally prefer. This switch is already on the clacky side, and I would say these are like a louder, clackier long pole meteor white, which is something I didn't even know existed until today. I'm a big fan of the sound and feel of these switches. I think long poles are starting to grow on me more, but the reduced travel still takes some getting used to since I usually prefer the standard 4mm of bottom out. Overall, I'm very impressed with the green jacket linears. I am curious to see what the tactiles are like, so I may pick those up in the future. These linears are unapologetically loud, super unique, and have a lot of character, and while the feel and sound obviously isn't for everyone, I can definitely get behind these switches at 65 cents per piece. The 65 switch market is becoming increasingly more saturated with big linear contenders such as Gazoos, Boba Gums, and LTs, Gateron CJ and Oil Kings, Prevails, Epsilons, and Nebulas, and I think the green jackets bring enough to the table to be up there with those switches. While these won't be my main linear since I prefer a full bottom out instead of the shortened one here, there's definitely a crowd that this switch will suit. It's all down to personal preference. All that's left to do now is wait for the third and final switch in the lineup. My personal guess would be like a black jacket switch for the frontman, but that's just me. I feel like companies like KNCKeys and Keyfront are out to make super unique switches, and that's definitely a good thing. Since about a year ago, all we saw was JWK recolor after JWK recolor, so variety is definitely welcomed here. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.